the power source, how to become more powerful, present, and lethal as you age. Now, I'm Sifu John Kogan. I'm a Wing Chun master in the Ip Man Choshintin lineage, and I studied with spiritual masters and teachers across Cyprus and America to understand how does one become more powerful as you get older. Now, I first saw this demonstrated by my Kung Fu master who I trained in Hong Kong with. He came to Australia to do a seminar. He was about 70 plus years old. I was a young fighter. I was an Australian champion in Taekwondo and also doing bouncing and got into some street fights. So I thought I was pretty tough. Anyway, he launched me across the room. He did a demonstration with what's called like a double bong sound movement. I put pressure on him and he absolutely launched me. And this was like, he was half my size, approximately more than double, maybe close to quadruple my age nearly. And just completely launched me. As a 70-plus-year-old man, launching a 20-year-old just didn't make any sense. And this was the first time I kind of observed and experienced this type of ageless power, a power that continues to deepen as you get older. Now, you know, I then became obsessed and made it my mission to understand what is this type of ageless power. What is this? Like, human beings shouldn't be able to do that. He had mentioned I'd asked, what is this? What are you doing? And he said, it's the power of the mind and energy. And I was like, okay, what do you mean? So long story short, it took me on a 30-year journey of trying to understand exactly what that is. Today, I'm going to be going into the actual source of this type of power. And this is what most internal martial artists or people working on themselves spiritually or personally miss. It's what is the underlying fabric which makes you powerful. And that's why it's called the power source. And that's what needs to be understood in order to maximize your internal power for martial arts, to be powerful, to not be thrown around or beaten by younger practitioners, but also to be powerful in life, for goal achievement, for having presence, confidence, discipline, focus, all these types of powers within oneself. Now, we're going to go over three things today. So we're going to go over three ideas, key ideas that are going to help you understand this, and also a few exercises so you can start to practically implement it in your daily life and your training. So essentially, there's three main components to understanding this power source. The first is the mind itself. The second is emotions, or the heart. And the third is consciousness. Now, of course, this is expressed through the body, and we'll get into that as we go. And you can't, overlook that. But what we call this is the power of intention. Also, deeper, we describe it as spiritual intention. So intention is actually what is the actual source of power itself. You can call it intention or spiritual intention. Now, we'll come back to the spiritual side. Now, you can say, all right, so we have the mind, we have emotions, we have consciousness, but how does this all relate to me being powerful? So I can tell you quick, or to you or I, developing power martially and in life. Well, at my master's place, right, there was quite a few of us training there. And some of the students there, like I give two examples. There was one student who was training a lot, 12 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, and another student who was training a little. She was doing maybe 2 to 6 hours a week. The guy training a lot, he was getting worse. The lady training a little, she was getting better. Same training mechanism. Now you'd think to yourself, if I did more push-ups, wouldn't my muscles get bigger? Why is this guy who's training more and harder getting worse, and this lady who's training less and easier getting better? And in analysis and in observation and being in that room training for so long, the key idea and detail was the level of consciousness, which we're going to go into in a moment. Now, when you say level of consciousness, what does this mean? Human beings aren't all the same at their level of consciousness, meaning you've got people like the Christ at the level of enlightenment, and we're touching on this topic here, consciousness, the foundation. And you've got people like Hitler or angry people that are down in the lower fields of fear, anger, desire. So, and you know it, you've met people who are filled with anger, fear, or just a pain in the ass, or they're a drain. And you've got those people that are really optimistic, enthusiastic, filled with life and love, and you want to be around them. So you can see and observe it in your own life that there are different levels of people due to the different levels of consciousness. Now, a way to kind of grasp, how this works is you can understand that you have a physical body, right? You can agree you have a physical body. Now, the physical body cannot experience itself. It needs a greater context to know that it exists. So the body knows that it exists because it has a mind. So the mind is the greater context for the body to know it exists. And you can observe that because if the mind is removed from the body, you're kaput, you're dead. Just like in the Matrix, Neo asks Morpheus, if you die in the Matrix, do you still live here? And he said, the body cannot exist without the mind. So even Morpheus knew it. Now, in that same direction, which is what we're getting to, is that the mind also needs a greater context to know that it exists. That greater context is consciousness itself. Consciousness itself is the source of power, and when utilized, activated, and aligned with, comes through the mind, the emotion, into the body. So this is the secret source as to how to be powerful as you age. My master, old 70-plus-year-old dude, you'd think, man, that guy ain't got nothing, but he would fuck you up, throw you around with ease. And the reason being is because he had a high level of consciousness. I observed him for close to a decade and watched a lot of his videos and content and learned from him. And he was always in a wise, loving, joyful energy. So he calibrated it around 400, 500. Now, I'll give you a little bit more depth of context here. So in regards to consciousness and the map of consciousness itself, you have two basic levels of energy. You've got below 200 energy or consciousness, which is forceful energy. So that's the levels of force. And the emotions in that field are, shame, guilt, pride, anger, desire, fear. And this line here is called the line of integrity, where you start to move into power. Force creates counterforce, strain, resistance, push, pull. Power absorbs. Think of gravity as power versus pushing a boulder uphill. Now, my master was kind of living in this. He had a natural level around 400 to 540 in my opinion. So that means all of his movements, everything he did came from the source of power, which is a higher level of consciousness. Whereas the guy that was getting worse, he was coming from like a desire, an anger, a pride. So the force created counterforce and he got worse. And the lady that actually was getting really good with less training, when asked, what does it feel like when you're in the state? Because we call it state, when you're expressing this type of power. And she said, it feels like I'm in love. Love, a higher frequency of power. So, understanding consciousness via understanding this map and how it relates to your life experience is a massive unlock to opening up the gateways of power, utilizing the mind and the energy in your system to be powerful, not just in fighting, but also in your life. So there's the piece on consciousness. Now, the question becomes, okay, sure, these ideas are wonderful. How do we make this practical? How do we actually get an experience for it? Well, I'm gonna hold on, so watch for a while and I'll give you some exercises to start actually experiencing it. I wanna give you some more context first. So we will do an exercise on this, on setting intent, and how to actually get into the experience of it. And we'll do some demonstrations as well so you can really observe its practicality. Now, the next piece is the mind. So essentially, we can all agree that we have a physical body. Yes, we can also, yes, I have a physical body. I have emotions, we feel emotions, and we have a mind, we think, right? Now, to take that even further, we actually have bodies. You have like a chi body or an energy body, an emotional body, and a mental body. So we have layers to self. You got physical, energy, emotional, mental, spiritual, but all of these are a part of the same whole. Now, why is that important? The mind, via attention and intention, via these two mechanisms, determine A, what you're focused on, and B, how you experience life. So for example, if you focus on someone that doesn't like you, or you don't like them, so we do it via intention and intention. Scribble. So think about that person that doesn't like you very much, right? And then notice how you feel in your system, right? And now think of someone that you love or that loves you and notice how you feel in your system. See how the point of attention, how you use the mind, determines how you actually start to feel in your space, in yourself, which links to your actual energy, which we'll get to in a moment. So that's the mind. Now, the emotion, how does that work in? So we think a thought, or we pay our attention to something, and a certain emotion is activated, or there's a feeling quality. And it can work the opposite way. We can be caught in a mood and certain thoughts come up from that. It works both directions. Thoughts aren't devoid of emotions, and emotions aren't devoid of thoughts. They're linked. Now, in the emotional side, the key detail on emotion is that indicates your degree of alignment with the higher fields. So the creator, or whoever made us, God you could say, put within our chest a compass, a tool, a guide for us to know the degree of our alignment. Meaning, if you have a good feeling, right, once again think of that person you love, then you can see and feel, you can experience, would be a better word, that you are in alignment with the higher fields of consciousness because you look at the emotions associated with it. Love, joy, reverence, serenity. When you're focused on that, your consciousness is being, let's say, aligned with or pulled to that level of consciousness. So the emotions indicate the direction of your consciousness and the alignment you have moment to moment to moment to moment. So that works in the opposite direction as well, meaning if you're feeling resistance, tension, fear, desire, lower frequencies, the mind is focused on something, whether it's the something you're focused on or whether it's the meaning you've attached to it, that's pulling your consciousness down. So example, the guy that was getting worse was focused on having a desire to achieve power, or was a very proud person, I am going to be the best, or something like this, which would pull his energy down into the levels of force indicated by emotion. So let's put it another way simply. If you are looking at the sun, you will feel warm. If you are looking away from the sun, the front of your body won't feel warm. Simple, right? Similar concept here. As you face the sun, the higher levels of your consciousness, of your spirit, you will feel the warmth of the emotion in your heart. As you face away from it and you look at things which make you feel separate, fear, anger, pride, desire, so on and so forth, you will feel a sense of resistance and tension. Force creates counterforce. So the emotion is the indicator. Indicator. Okay, great. So now we have some concepts that we can start to work with. We understand that the field of consciousness is being expressed through us, meaning the mind is within a field of consciousness, the body is in the field of the mind, right? And you can think of mind and emotion as one unit. We'll get to that. Now, let's look at some practical exercises that you can do to actually get an experience for this. Now, the first thing that you can do with consciousness is you can actually set your intention. You can say to yourself, okay, what is my highest intention or spiritual intention? Love, joy, freedom, peace, power, wisdom, prosperity, creativity, whatever it might be. And as you set that intention, this becomes like a compass or a North Star for your life experience because you have a relative point of comparison as to how am I experiencing my life moment to moment. If the objective is peace and you don't feel, or the intention is peace and you don't feel peaceful, then you know, okay, something is in the way of my peace right now. Something is blocking that. So you set an intention, just choose. That's a simple way to do it. Now, that's step one. Now you've as an example, peace or joy or unconditional love, whatever it is. Now that you've set the intention, a way to actually start to get an experience for this is to think of a person, place, event, or experience, either in an imagined form, like an image in the mind, that you tie to that intention. Maybe it's someone you love, maybe it's a place you went to, maybe it's your son or your daughter, or your puppy, or your favorite food, maybe it's a chicken laksa at your favorite noodle shop, whatever. Use that image to go to that energy. Now that's a simple kind of tool you can use moment to moment throughout your day to stay in that frequency consciously, to make this a priority. So your priority is to stay in your highest intention. Now the game now is, okay, how do we make that practical? Well, firstly, what we can do is you can actually do a movement as you feel the two different types. Meaning, for example, let's do a simple bend and bow. So a bend and bow is a spine opener exercise that I teach in order to get your spine nice and open. You know, we're teaching the power source is one part of an overall system that we teach, which has 6 components. The spiritual intention as a primary, letting go and surrendering negative emotions and blocks, sensing energy and space to be present, syncing in the movement of energy for the mastery of thought forms, seeing and visualization to be conscious of one's thoughts, emotions, and to design one's life. And further, centering. How do you align your center for a structural integrity and power so you can start to be more conscious of yourself, but also generate more power? So there's 6 components to the overall system. We're focused on currently intention. Now the reason I bring that up is that the mobilization and the opener that we're going to do links to all these pieces to make you more powerful. But once again, we're going to look at it in context of intent. So the movement is this. Essentially, stand with your feet facing forward, tuck your chin to your chest, soften your breastbone and roll all the way down, looking towards your belly, and then coming back up. So we're just doing what's called a bend and bow, which is a spine opening exercise. Now the difference now is that we're going to use 2 different points of focus. One on a negative intention and one on a positive intention. One on a forceful level of consciousness, one on a powerful level of consciousness. So bring to your mind some person, place, event, experience, something which doesn't sit well with you. Maybe someone was a dickhead to you, or maybe some person that betrayed you. Think about them, and as you think about them, sense your body as you do a roll down. So just notice the experience in your body as you do a roll down. All the way, or as we call bend and bow. And keep them in your mind as you do it. And look up. Now what I want you to do, you can write this down, or you can just think about it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being straight up awesome flow, ease, release, relaxed, like super mobile and fluid, and 1 being tense, stiff, rigid, terrible. Where did you map on that scale? On the scale of fluidity, we could call it. When you did that bend and bow, thinking about that experience which wasn't pleasant. So have a thought about that, either note it down physically or mentally. Now, let's do the same exercise. So shake your body out a bit, loosen up, but now bring to your mind your highest intention. Let's go to the field of power. The mind focused on the higher fields of consciousness via that intention and image. Someone you love, chicken laksa, or whatever it might be. Bring them into your mind and think about them. Get into that feeling quality, experience that, and now do that same bend and bow. Chin to chest, eyes to belly, rolling all the way down, coming back up once you've reached the bottom, looking up to the sky. And now rate yourself on fluidity. 10 being awesome fluidity, that was amazing, ease, sense of flow. 1 being tense, rigid, resistance and force. So rate yourself on that. And I'll put money on it that you feel much better in that better level of consciousness. You know, that's the experience everyone has. So that's a simple practical tool you can do on your own. Now, so we've looked at setting our intention. We've looked at focusing the mind on that intention whilst moving. Now, a third exercise you can do is the emotional side. And you can do this either with a wall or with a partner, with a movement. Meaning, and I'll show you what I mean. So just before we go into this third exercise, I want to make something, you aware of something. We as human are living in a field or a sea of consciousness, right? You can think of this as infinite field or the quantum field or a sea of radio stations that you attune with. Now what determines your experience or level of consciousness is the quality of your thoughts and emotions moment to moment, which is determined via your attention. So we have negative thought forms and we have positive thought forms. Ones of love, freedom, peace, joy, so on and so forth, and then the opposite for the lower ones. These thought forms are what pull us into these fields via our point of focus. And once again, the indicator is the emotional quality, the heart. Now, in regards to getting experience for this, once again, you can do this in a couple of ways. You can bring to your mind that person you love very much, or that experience which brings a sense of joy or upliftment to you. And you can either use like a wall and push on the wall as you think about that loving person or feeling or experience. And then you can once again go back to the experience you're not so happy about, the person that hates you or you hate them or whatever it might be, and feel how that feels in your system. And just notice the difference in quality of the experience of your body moving. Because remember, this is not just about living powerfully, this is about power in martial practice as well. How do you stay in the field of power under dynamic pressure? Now, I'll borrow you Tenaruru. This is Tenaruru. He's one of my students here and one of my brothers in Wantau. For example, so if you have a training partner, you can do this. What you do is you get them to do, you can do a simple movement, for example, the punch like this, right? And what T is going to do is just going to reach his hand forward slowly. Now, as I'm going to apply consistent pressure, so I just hold a level of consistent pressure, meaning I'm not going harder or softer as he moves. I'm holding consistently like a statue so he can have a level playing field of experience. So first he's going to think about something that doesn't please him, you know, whatever it might be, some incident from the past or a person. He's just going to slowly reach forward to me as he thinks about that. I'm just going to hold on and give a level of pressure to his system, and he's going to feel how that feels. Okay? Now, shake that out, loosen up, and he's going to now bring to his mind his spiritual intention. That can easily be accessed generally by a sense of gratitude or someone you love, but it's up to you how you access it. He's going to stay in that quality of emotion as he now moves his arm forward to me, and I'm just going to hold exactly the same. Ready, I can feel there's a different level and quality of movement. So for you, how did that feel to you?
Yeah, a lot different compared to the first one. So much tension, so much, I was using a lot of muscle, and this time I was just using I was feeling really good as I was pushing that. So.
Awesome, thanks. So if you face the camera, so what happens is, as T goes into his spiritual intention, that opens up the heart center, connects the head, because look, the heart is the connector of the body to the head, right? See, the heart's between the body and head. It gets a good flow of energy through his system and activates the energy channels, and in current scientific terms, it unifies the structure. The skeletal and the fascial system become unified via the opening of the energy system. In more deeper spiritual teachings, they talk about the aura expands from the heart center. You call it what you want, but the fact is that you become more powerful. Now, so he opens up the heart center, that connects everything, as opposed to when he's in force, that shuts this down. So it becomes purely physical or mental, and there's resistance and tension in the system. Thanks, T. So, you know, you can get a practical experience for this via those simple exercises. Now, moving forward, you know, applying this on a day-to-day basis is about keeping it in mind, being conscious that your spiritual intention is the primary, to seek first that sense of peace, that sense of calm, joy, freedom, creativity within yourself, moment to moment. You know, in our training, we actually center in this. We make this a primary for power generation. So, you know, moving forward, firstly, I hope you found this useful. If you have any questions or comments, chuck them below. Also, we have an upcoming workshop. Our workshop is on the power source itself. It's going to be a 3-hour workshop we go through exercises in depth on how to master your mind and emotions to link you towards the higher levels of consciousness for internal power generation in both combat, but also just living powerfully, being more powerful, calm, and dangerous in life. So once again, thank you for watching. If you're interested in the workshop, there should be a link below, so click something here or there, just have a look beneath, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.